Hello, everyone. Welcome to English Lane. Before we begin, I want you to slow down, not your body, but your thoughts. Because this is not a video meant to be rushed. This is a video meant to be felt. At some point in life, almost everyone reaches a moment where continuing feels heavier than stopping. You wake up one day and feel tired, not physically, but mentally. You've been trying, you've been hoping, you've been waiting, and yet nothing seems to move the way you expected. Progress feels slow, results feel invisible, and quietly, without drama, a thought appears in your mind. Maybe I should give up. This thought does not come because you are weak. It comes because you are human. Most people think giving up happens suddenly, but in reality, it happens slowly. It begins with emotional tiredness. It grows through disappointment. And it becomes strong when you start comparing your life with others. Over time, quitting stops feeling like failure and starts feeling like relief. This listening journey is not here to force motivation into you. It is here to help you understand something much deeper. Why the feeling of giving up appears, why it feels convincing, and why staying, even when it's uncomfortable, can quietly change everything. We will go lesson by lesson, slowly, calmly, honestly. Each lesson will connect directly to real life, your life. So don't try to feel motivated. Just stay present and listen. Now let's begin with the first and most important truth. Lesson 1. Why people feel like giving up. The feeling of giving up does not come from failure. It comes from emotional exhaustion. Most people don't give up because they are incapable. They give up because they are tired of carrying hope without seeing results. They give up because effort feels one-sided. They give up because the mind starts asking painful questions like, how long will this take? Or, what if nothing changes? This feeling usually appears after 3 things happen together. First, progress becomes slow. At the beginning, everything feels exciting. You feel energy, you feel motivation, you feel movement. But after some time, improvement becomes less visible. You're still working, but the excitement fades. The brain does not like slow rewards, so it starts losing interest. Second, comparison enters quietly. You see others moving ahead, others succeeding, others reaching goals faster. And suddenly, your own journey feels small. Even if you are improving, it doesn't feel enough. Comparison doesn't show you the full picture. It only shows you highlights. But your mind treats those highlights as truth. Third, your brain tries to protect you from disappointment. The human brain is designed for safety, not dreams. When something feels uncertain or emotionally painful, the brain looks for an escape. And quitting feels like the safest option. It promises relief. It promises rest. It promises an end to pressure. This is why giving up feels natural. Not because it is right, but because it reduces emotional pain in the moment. Here is the most important thing you must understand. The desire to give up usually appears right before growth becomes uncomfortable. This is the stage almost everyone reaches. And this is the stage where most people stop. Not because they failed, but because they misunderstood the feeling. They thought tiredness meant stop. They thought discomfort meant, this is not for me. They thought emotional heaviness meant, I'm not strong enough. But smart people see it differently. They understand that this feeling is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of transition. It means the easy phase is over and the real phase has begun. The phase where identity starts changing. the phase where patience is required, the phase where results take time. Feeling like giving up does not mean you should quit. It means you are standing at a critical psychological point. And what you do at this point matters more than talent, intelligence, or luck. This is why Lesson 1 is so important. Before you can learn why you should never give up, you must first understand why the feeling to give up exists. Once you understand that, the feeling loses its power. Lesson 2. Why giving up feels right in the moment. Giving up often feels right, not because it is right, but because it brings immediate emotional relief. And the human brain is wired to choose relief over growth when it feels overwhelmed. When you are struggling for a long time, your mind becomes tired before your body does. You may still have the ability to continue, but emotionally, you feel drained. In that state, your brain starts searching for the fastest way to reduce pressure. Quitting feels like a solution because it promises one thing instantly: the end of discomfort. This is where the danger lies. Giving up does not feel like loss in the moment. It feels like rest. It feels like peace. It feels like freedom. Your brain tells you, if you stop trying, you won't have to feel disappointed anymore. And that thought feels comforting. But what your brain does not tell you is what comes after that relief. The relief of quitting is temporary, but the consequences are long-lasting. In the moment, quitting removes pressure. But slowly, something else takes its place. Regret. Not loud regret. Quiet regret. The kind that sits inside you and whispers, maybe I could have gone further. Over time, that whisper grows heavier than the struggle ever was. Another reason giving up feels right is because the brain confuses emotional pain with danger. When effort does not bring immediate results, the brain interprets that as a threat to self-worth. It thinks, if I keep trying and fail, it will hurt more. So it tries to protect you by convincing you to stop before that imagined pain arrives. This is why people quit not at the beginning, but near the middle. Not when things are impossible, but when things are uncertain. Uncertainty is uncomfortable. Silence between effort and reward feels scary. Waiting feels harder than failing. And quitting feels like control. But real control is not found in escape. It is found in endurance. Here's a truth most people never realize. Giving up feels right because it reduces pain today, but it increases pain tomorrow. Staying feels hard today, but it reduces pain tomorrow. Smart people learn to recognize this pattern. They understand that the moment quitting feels most reasonable is often the moment they must pause, not quit, and let the feeling pass. They don't make life decisions during emotional exhaustion. They wait. They breathe. They give themselves time. Because feelings are temporary, but decisions are permanent. When you understand that giving up only feels right because your brain wants comfort, not because quitting is the correct path, you gain power over the moment. The urge loses its authority. You stop obeying it automatically. You don't need to feel strong to continue. You just need to understand the feeling. And once you understand it, you realize something important. The feeling to quit is not a message to stop. It is a signal to slow down, not step away. Lesson 3. The progress you can't see yet. One of the most painful reasons people give up is because they believe nothing is changing. They look at their effort and see no visible reward, no clear results, no proof that things are working. And the mind quietly concludes, if I can't see progress, maybe there is no progress at all. But this belief is one of the greatest illusions of growth. Real progress is often invisible before it becomes obvious. When you are learning, growing, or building something meaningful, the earliest changes do not show on the outside. They happen internally, quietly, beneath the surface. Your patience improves before your results do. Your understanding deepens before your confidence shows. Your resilience grows before your success appears. But because you cannot measure these changes easily, your mind dismisses them as nothing. Think about how seeds grow underground. For a long time, there is no sign of life above the soil. If you dig too early, you won't see a plant. You'll only destroy the process. Growth requires darkness, pressure, and time before it becomes visible. The same is true for your efforts. Most people give up not because they are failing, but because they are in the invisible phase of progress. This phase feels empty. It feels unrewarding. It feels like effort without return. But it is actually the most important phase. During this time, your brain is learning new patterns. Your mindset is shifting. Your discipline is forming. You are becoming someone who can handle the next level, even if you don't realize it yet. And if you quit during this phase, you don't just stop progress. You erase the foundation that was being built. This is why people often say, I gave up, and later I realized I was closer than I thought. They were standing right before the breakthrough, but they couldn't see it. Progress does not announce itself loudly. It does not always motivate you. Sometimes it only asks you to trust the process when nothing feels rewarding. And that trust is what separates people who move forward from people who stay stuck. Smart people understand this deeply. They do not measure progress only by outcomes. They measure it by consistency, by effort, by how they show up even when results are delayed. They know that visible success is only the final stage of a long, invisible transformation. When you feel like nothing is changing, pause and ask yourself, are you really standing still? Or are you just growing quietly? Because the most dangerous moment to quit is often the moment before progress becomes visible. And staying through that silence is not weakness. It is intelligence. Lesson 4. Struggle is not failure. One of the most damaging beliefs people carry is the idea that struggle means failure. When things feel hard, when progress feels slow, when effort feels heavy, the mind quickly labels the situation as a loss. And once something is labeled as failure, motivation collapses. Hope weakens. Giving up starts to feel logical. But struggle is not failure. Struggle is evidence of effort. If you were failing, you would not be struggling. You would not care. Struggle only appears when you are trying to move forward, when you are pushing against limits, when you are stretching beyond what is comfortable. Difficulty is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is changing. Think about learning any meaningful skill. At the beginning, everything feels awkward. Your mind feels slow. Your confidence feels unstable. Your results feel inconsistent. This stage is uncomfortable not because you are incapable, but because you are inexperienced. And experience is built through repetition, not through ease. Many people quit because they misinterpret discomfort as a warning instead of a signal. They think, if this were meant for me, it wouldn't feel this hard. But nothing that changes your life deeply feels easy at first. Growth demands friction, and friction always feels like struggle before it feels like strength. Failure is not trying and falling short. Failure is stopping because things feel hard. Struggle means you are still in the process. It means you are still learning. It means your brain is adjusting to a new level of challenge. And that adjustment phase always feels messy, confusing, uncomfortable. But it is temporary. Smart people understand this difference clearly. They do not panic when things become difficult. They expect difficulty. They understand that struggle is part of the cost of becoming someone better. Instead of asking, "Why is this so hard?" they ask, "What is this teaching me?" This shift changes everything. When you stop seeing struggle as failure, you stop taking discomfort personally. You stop attacking yourself mentally. You stop believing that something is wrong with you. And once that self-blame disappears, your energy returns. You regain clarity. You regain patience. Struggle does not mean you are losing. It means you are still in the game. And as long as you are still in the game, the outcome has not been decided yet. This is why giving up during struggle is so tragic. Not because the struggle was unbearable, but because it was misunderstood. The pain you feel is not proof that you should stop. It is proof that you are moving through something meaningful. Stay long enough, and struggle turns into skill. Stay long enough, and confusion turns into clarity. Stay long enough, and effort turns into confidence. Struggle is not your enemy. It is the doorway. Lesson 5. What happens if you quit versus if you stay? Every time you feel like giving up, you are standing at a quiet crossroads. One path leads to quitting. The other leads to staying. At that moment, both paths feel uncertain, but only one of them slowly changes your life. If you quit, the first thing you feel is relief. The pressure disappears. The expectations fade. The struggle stops. For a short time, your mind feels lighter. You tell yourself, "At least I don't have to worry about this anymore." And that relief feels comforting. But relief is not resolution. After some time, another feeling quietly appears. It is not loud. It does not attack you suddenly. It simply settles in your mind. It sounds like questions you cannot fully answer. What if I had continued? Was I really incapable, or did I stop too early? Could my life be different right now? Quitting often replaces struggle with doubt, and doubt stays longer than effort ever did. When you quit, you also lose something deeper than progress. You lose trust in yourself. Your mind remembers the moment you stopped. And the next time life becomes difficult, quitting feels easier. Not because the situation is worse, but because your identity has quietly shifted. You start seeing yourself as someone who stops when things get uncomfortable. And that belief affects every future decision. Now look at the other path. If you stay, nothing magical happens immediately. The struggle does not disappear. The uncertainty remains. Some days still feel heavy, but something subtle begins to change inside you. You build endurance. You learn how to sit with discomfort without running away. You gain emotional strength, the kind that cannot be taught, only earned. Staying does not guarantee instant success, but it guarantees growth. When you stay, you teach your mind that discomfort is survivable. That effort is not wasted. That progress does not always need to be visible to be real. Over time, this changes how you face challenges. You stop panicking when things get hard. You stop seeing difficulty as a threat. You begin to trust yourself. The difference between quitting and staying is not just outcome. It is identity. Quitting asks, how do I escape this feeling? Staying asks, who am I becoming through this? Smart people choose staying not because they enjoy struggle, but because they understand its long-term value. They know that even if the outcome changes, the person they become through staying is always stronger, calmer, and more capable. One path gives short-term comfort and long-term regret. The other gives short-term discomfort and long-term strength. And the most important truth is this: you do not have to decide forever. You only have to decide today. Staying one more day often changes what tomorrow looks like. Lesson 6. Why most success comes after the quitting point. Most people imagine success as something that arrives while motivation is high and energy feels strong. They think success comes when everything feels aligned, clear, and encouraging. But real success rarely works that way. In reality, success often appears after the moment most people choose to quit. This is not coincidence. It is psychology. There is a specific point in every long journey where effort feels meaningless. The excitement is gone. The rewards are delayed. The work feels repetitive. And emotionally, you feel empty rather than inspired. This is what we can call the quitting point. It is the stage where motivation no longer carries you forward. Most people stop here, not because they are incapable, but because they expected motivation to last forever. They believed that if something was meant for them, it would continue to feel exciting. When that excitement fades, they assume they are on the wrong path. But smart people understand something crucial. Motivation is temporary. Progress is not. The quitting point exists because growth demands a transition. At first, motivation pushes you forward. Later, discipline must take over. And discipline only develops when motivation disappears. This is why the quitting point is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of real transformation. Think about how many people stop right before improvement accelerates. They leave just as skills are about to deepen. They quit just as understanding is about to mature. They walk away just as consistency is about to compound. And because they never stayed long enough, they never see how close they actually were. Success hides behind the quitting point because that point filters people. It separates those who rely on feelings from those who rely on commitment. It tests patience. It tests belief. It tests identity. Only those who stay when nothing feels rewarding pass this test. This is why so many successful people say the same thing in different words. The hardest part was staying when quitting felt logical. They didn't succeed because they were always confident. They succeeded because they stayed when confidence disappeared. When you pass the quitting point, something changes internally. You stop asking, "Do I feel like doing this?" and start asking, "Is this who I want to be?" That shift is powerful. It moves you from emotional decision-making to intentional living. Smart people don't chase success emotionally. They build it patiently. They understand that the most uncomfortable phase is often the most meaningful one, and that staying a little longer than everyone else is often the only difference between average and extraordinary. So when you reach the point where quitting feels reasonable, pause. That moment is not a warning sign. It is a doorway. And what waits on the other side is something most people never reach: not because it is impossible, but because they left too early. Lesson 7. Time rewards. Patience, not motivation. Motivation feels powerful, but it is unreliable. It comes and goes depending on mood, energy, emotions, and circumstances. One day you feel inspired. The next day you feel empty. This is why motivation alone cannot carry you through long journeys. Time does not reward excitement. Time rewards patience. Most people wait to feel motivated before they act. When motivation disappears, they stop. They believe something is wrong. But nothing is wrong. Motivation was never meant to last. It is only meant to start movement, not sustain it. Patience is different. Patience does not depend on feeling good. Patience stays even when the heart feels tired. Patience continues quietly, without drama. Time responds to patience because patience creates consistency. And consistency is what allows small efforts to accumulate into something meaningful. One day of effort does nothing. 1 week changes little. But months of steady patience reshape skills, mindset, and identity. Smart people understand this early. They do not expect emotional energy every day. They expect resistance. They expect boredom. They expect doubt. And because they expect it, they are not surprised when it appears. They don't panic. They don't quit. They simply continue at a slower, calmer pace. This is why patience looks boring from the outside but powerful from the inside. Motivation says, I will work when I feel inspired. Patience says, I will work even when I don't feel inspired. Time listens to the second voice. Think about anything meaningful you admire. Skill, wisdom, confidence, success. None of it was built during moments of excitement alone. It was built during ordinary days, quiet effort, and long stretches where nothing dramatic happened. Patience turned those unnoticed days into strength. Giving up often happens because people underestimate time. They expect quick confirmation that they are on the right path. When confirmation does not arrive, they lose faith. But time does not confirm. It compounds. And compounding only works when patience stays long enough. Patience is not passive. It is active endurance. It is the ability to stay without emotional reward, to move forward without applause, to trust time even when results are delayed. This is why time eventually rewards those who stay calm and steady, not because they are special, but because they allowed time to do its work. Motivation starts the journey. Patience finishes it. And those who understand this stop quitting too early. Not because things feel easier, but because they finally understand how growth truly works. Lesson 8. Staying changes who you become. Most people think staying is about reaching a goal. But the real power of staying has very little to do with the goal itself. It has everything to do with who you become while you stay. When you continue despite doubt, fatigue, and uncertainty, something inside you slowly shifts. Not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. You stop seeing yourself as someone who gives up when things get uncomfortable. You begin to see yourself as someone who can endure. And that change in identity is far more valuable than any single result. Staying rewrites your self-image. Every time you choose not to quit, you send a quiet message to your mind. I can handle this. That message accumulates. And over time, it becomes belief. You don't notice the change immediately. But one day, you face a difficult situation and realize something is different. You don't panic the way you used to. You don't run mentally. You don't collapse emotionally. You stay present, calm, grounded. That strength did not come from motivation. It came from staying. Smart people understand that effort shapes identity. When you stay through discomfort, your nervous system learns stability. Your mind learns trust. Your emotions learn regulation. You become someone who does not break easily. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger. This is why staying once makes it easier to stay again. Giving up creates a pattern. Staying also creates a pattern. One builds fragility, the other builds resilience. Over time, staying changes how you approach everything. You stop asking, "What if this fails?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" You stop defining yourself by outcomes and start defining yourself by consistency. You become less reactive, less fearful, and more intentional. And here is something most people never realize. The strongest people are not the ones who always succeed. They are the ones who stayed long enough for struggle to reshape them. Even if the original goal changes, the person you become through staying remains. Confidence grows. Self-trust deepens. Emotional strength stabilizes. And that version of you carries forward into every area of life. Staying does not just move you closer to success, it moves you closer to yourself. And once your identity shifts, quitting no longer feels natural. It feels foreign. Because you are no longer the same person who wanted to give up. That is the quiet power of staying. Lesson 9. Giving up costs more than you think. Most people think the cost of giving up is small. They believe that if they quit, they only lose the goal they were chasing. But the real cost of giving up is far deeper and far more personal. When you give up, you don't just walk away from a task or a dream. You walk away from trust in yourself. At first, quitting feels harmless. You tell yourself it was not the right time, or not the right path, or not realistic. These explanations feel logical, even kind. But slowly, something changes inside you. The next time you face difficulty, your mind remembers what you did before. It remembers that you stopped. And because the brain learns through patterns, quitting becomes familiar. This is the hidden cost. Every time you give up, your mind quietly updates your identity. It begins to see you as someone who does not stay long when things get hard. Not consciously, subconsciously. And that belief affects future decisions. You hesitate more. You doubt yourself faster. You lose confidence not because you failed, but because you stopped believing in your ability to endure. Giving up also costs self-respect. There is a deep difference between failing after honest effort and quitting to escape discomfort. Failure can strengthen you. Quitting often weakens you, because deep inside, you know the difference. Even if no one else judges you, you do. And that inner judgment is heavy. Another cost of giving up is regret. Not dramatic regret, but quiet regret. The kind that appears years later when you see others succeed, or when life slows down and your mind has time to reflect. You don't regret trying. You regret stopping too soon. You regret not finding out who you could have become. What hurts most is not the missed outcome. It is the unanswered question. What if I had stayed? Smart people understand this. They know that staying costs energy, patience, and discomfort. But giving up costs identity, confidence, and peace. And those losses are harder to rebuild. Giving up also shrinks your emotional tolerance. When you quit to avoid pain, your mind learns that pain is something to escape, not something to face. Over time, even small challenges feel overwhelming. Life feels heavier, not lighter. The comfort you gained by quitting slowly disappears, replaced by fragility. This is why giving up often leads to more exhaustion, not less. Staying is hard, but giving up makes life smaller. And once you see the true cost of quitting, the loss of self-trust, the weight of regret, the weakening of identity, quitting no longer feels like relief. It feels expensive, because the price you pay is not the dream. The price you pay is your belief in yourself. Lesson 10. Your future self is waiting for you. Every time you feel like giving up, there is a quiet moment that most people ignore. It is the moment where two versions of you exist at the same time. One is the present you, tired, frustrated, unsure, carrying the weight of effort and disappointment. The other is the future you, the version that exists only if you choose to stay. Your future self does not shout. It does not pressure you. It does not beg. It simply waits. Most people think motivation comes from strong emotions, but real strength comes from responsibility. Responsibility to the person you are becoming. When you quit, you are not disappointing others. You are disappointing the future version of yourself who trusted you to keep going. That future self is not perfect. It is not free from struggle. But it is stronger, calmer, wiser, because it stayed when quitting felt easier. It carries confidence not because life became easy, but because it learned that it can survive difficulty. Every time you stay, even when progress feels invisible, something important happens. You build self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of everything meaningful in life. Confidence, discipline, peace, and resilience. The future you is built quietly, not in moments of success, but in moments of choice. Especially the small choices, the invisible ones, the days when nothing feels rewarding. Those are the moments that shape identity. Smart people understand this deeply. They don't ask, "How do I feel right now?" They ask, "Who am I becoming if I choose this?" Staying does not guarantee success, but quitting guarantees one thing: you will never know. And not knowing becomes a quiet burden, not dramatic pain, but a subtle emptiness, a sense that something unfinished is following you through life. Your future self is not asking you to be perfect. It is asking you to be consistent. It is asking you to stay one more day, to try one more time, to not close the door before the journey has time to unfold. Because growth does not rush, and clarity often arrives after endurance, not before. So when you feel like giving up, pause for a moment, not to force yourself, but to remember who is waiting. Not success, not results, not approval. You. Closing message. As this journey comes to an end, remember this. Giving up is a moment, but staying is a decision that quietly shapes your confidence, your self-respect, and your future. You don't need to feel strong to continue. You only need to stay. Stay when progress feels slow. Stay when motivation disappears. Stay when doubt gets loud. Because strength is not built when things feel easy. It is built when you choose not to walk away. Away. And while you stay, something else happens too. As you listen, reflect, and move through this journey in calm, natural English, your mind is also learning the language. Your listening skills grow. Your understanding deepens. Your confidence in English slowly becomes steadier, just like your confidence in life. This is not just motivation. This is training for your mind, your focus, and your future. So breathe deeply, trust the process, and keep going. Your future self is already grateful that you didn't quit.